Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures Podcast. I am your host, Sean Hayes, and this is episode 348, and we're here to bring you this week's latest and greatest gaming news. We've got quite a few things this week, and we actually have a game review. is a review of Windrose, my time in Windrose so far. Talked about it as a news item last week, and I said, hey, maybe I should get it, and then I got it. So, yeah, it's certainly been a week. I managed to do some streaming, and then it was the patch launch this week, and the patch in Warcraft is going to be one of the news items, because, oh boy, it was not good. It has not been a good experience. So we're going to talk more about that later. But hope you all have had a great week. It's my family's been on vacation, so I've been doing a lot of deep cleaning, getting caught up on some stuff. And the 8-Bit Adventures website is fully fixed now. I was having a problem with the comics plugin. Comic Easel is the plugin version to like serve webcomics on the site, and it had been abandoned for several years, and so it was starting to become a security risk. I was trying to look into other options, and at the time the best one was like just not using a plugin and turning everything into posts, which meant I had to go back and redo like all 500 comics. And that's a big project, and so it was taking me a long time. But then I found there's another comics plugin that like does very similar stuff and had an import option from Comic Easel. So that worked out. Then I didn't have to convert any more things, and it's all great now. So everything's back up and working. So I'm trying to kind of start planning things again, start doing more creative stuff again. That was kind of holding me back a bit. But I can't make any promises as to when we'll start seeing comics again. But my hope is it's soonish. I do want to do it right this time and actually come up with storylines and scripts and stuff, and not just do a comic when it strikes me. But then also trying to do it every week. So, so I'm very excited about that. That was a big thing in 8-Bit Adventures land. So yeah, 8bitadventures.com. If you're inclined to go check it out. But enough about that. How about we get into this week's news? So first up, Ubisoft's worst kept secret is that Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced is coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC on July 9th. Not coming to Switch 2. I don't know if it will. I was even looking at the PC requirements, and they're I might not be able to run this game. Let's put it that way. On minimum settings. So that's cool. That's great. But yes, Game Informer reported on this. And it was a thing where it's kind of been rumored for years. But there was finally like a trailer and a release date and confirmation. So besides updated visuals and dynamic, like realistic weather, which like I would have been fine keeping the visuals as is. So, I mean, better visuals, sure. It's mostly like you get ray tracing. I don't care. But like dynamic weather, like that's what I care about. But it'll feature some new side quest content, do more content with Blackbeard and I saw his name. He's the other captain that was on. Geez, what's the name of the show? Our Flag Means Death. Can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's basically like the banker or the financier or whatever who turned pirate, or he might have been like a plantation owner or something. It was just like I'm bored with this life. I'm gonna go be a pirate. More like stuff with him, and like some of those storylines will allow you to unlock new ship combat mechanics. So things like doing like a double the powder and doing like a double shot, and things like that. So that's all very cool. Like ship combat in Black Flag was like the reason it was played. It was so good. So the fact that they're adding more to it is fantastic. But that's not all. They're also doing more like updated melee combat mechanics. So it's not just sort of like typical early Ubisoft games where it's like you wait for somebody to attack you and then you push like the react button and then you automatically counterattack. And then you just do that. Like you don't bother attacking. You just constantly you counterattack everybody. So you can change it up so that there are like combo moves that you can do. You can actually parry now with dual swords. So that should be exciting as well. It was one of those things where like I was never a huge fan of like the melee combat. It was always like use your pistols, like do boat stuff, use your pistols, and then when you've run out of pistols, then you do melee combat stuff. I always took it as if you are forced into melee combat, that is a failure of like the stealth and ranged combat systems. Is like melee combat is when you've made a mistake and are therefore paying for it. So I'm glad to see that they're updating it so that like getting into melee combat's a little more rewarding. Also some quality of life stuff. So you can now crouch. You don't just have to be in like bushes or whatever. So it allows you to use more of the terrain to your advantage. And all of those awful like having to tail a conversation missions, you now will no longer automatically fail if you like get or detected or whatever. Instead it will prompt melee combat. So that's great because nobody liked those. So I'm very excited. I hope some kind of version comes to Switch too. That would be great. Until then, I mean, maybe I'll go back and play the original. I have the original on Switch, so maybe it'll run a bit better on Switch too. But yeah, it was a great game. It's a game and it's a remake from like the ground up. So they're doing it in their new, I forget, Anima. I think it's their new Anima engine. Animus engine, maybe. I forget the exact name of it. Animus would make sense because that's the name of the system in Assassin's Creed. But so yeah, July 9th. Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. Next up, IGN reports that Final Fantasy XIV is coming to Switch 2. This blows my mind. Like, I know it's made with consoles in mind, but to have an MMO on Switch 2 seems wild to me. So, coming in August. Not a firm date in August. They're just like Square Enix seems committed to like we're going to get it out at some point in August. However, before you all get excited, the Switch 2 version will require its own subscription. This is different from how it normally works. So normally with Final Fantasy XIV, you like if you pay for a subscription, it's good for like every platform. It sounds like it's something due to negotiations with Nintendo, so it sounds like Nintendo's to blame for this. Um, but also like an NSO membership will not be required, which seems again weird. Uh, so yeah, it's one of those things where like it sounds like the negotiation was like, well, it won't require that, but maybe like it'll require its own so that they can get a cut of it. I think that would make sense to me. But if you have no interest in Nintendo Switch Online, you won't need it for this. And if you have a current subscription, you'll be able to get this one for 50% off. I don't know how much it's going to cost. It still sounds like maybe not a great deal, but if you want to be able to play it on the go, I don't know, maybe it's worth it then. So yeah. It was also mentioned that that the new expansion is coming in January. I forget what the name of it was. I just focus more on the Switch 2 aspect, but there is another expansion coming. I don't know, it was something like Everfrost, I think. So yeah. Admittedly, I did try out Final Fantasy XIV. I could not stick with it. Yeah, I think unfortunate, like I think for me it was like an art style thing. And I do tend to have that problem with sort of Eastern developed like MMOs as opposed to Western developed ones, where it's like a combination of like the user interface and the art style. Like the characters definitely have a very specific look to them. And I know a common complaint coming from other MMOs looking at Final Fantasy XIV is like all of the characters are like human with some other feature. So it's like, you know, human with elf ears or tiny human or big green human. So like a lot of they don't really play with the proportions or any like cosmetic features of like the character models, which certainly helps with development time, but yeah. That said, I did find the profession system intriguing, which is why I tried it out. It's also coming from Warcraft, where Warcraft encouraged you to make alts. There's no reason to make more than one character in FF14 because like you can freely switch to any classes and then you can learn every profession on a single character. So like that basically defeats the purpose of having more than one character. So anyway, but coming to Switch 2. So, and you know what? That's very exciting. I mean, you know, maybe if you have the disposable income and you don't mind paying for like a second, like buy one get one half off subscription, being able to take it like on the go and just as long as you're connected to Wi-Fi, be able to play wherever. Seems pretty cool. Sounds like they might still be doing the trial as well with the Switch 2 version. So that would be a great way to try it out and see if you like it. So yeah, I had to mention it because like it was not something that I would have expected. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So next up, we reported on this last week, and it looks like Microsoft actually came through. Is Game Informer reports that Microsoft has announced an immediate price cut for certain tiers of Game Pass. I didn't think they'd do it. Certainly not so soon. You know, I certainly thought it would have been a lip service and like we might see it a year from now. So the two So they're not doing anything with the two cheaper tiers. So this is going to be PC Game Pass and Game Pass Ultimate. Game Pass Ultimate is getting a $7 a month price cut. So it's going from $29.99 a month to $22.99 a month. It's pretty substantial. So it's like a 25% price cut. And then the PC Game Pass, less impressive. It's like a $2.50 a month price cut. So it goes from, it's at like $16.99 down to, or it was $16.49 down to $13.99. It was I had to do weird math. I had to do math to figure out the price cut. Now there is a trade-off for this. The sacrifice that was made is that new Call of Duty titles will no longer join Game Pass at launch, and instead will be added to Game Pass roughly 1 year later during whatever like the next holiday season is. I'm not super familiar with Call of Duty, so I don't know, like, does it tend to come out during the holiday season? Because if that's the case, then yeah, then it's about 1 year later. I don't know. I'd say that's fine. If it were me personally, I'd be okay with not getting Call of Duty and getting a cheaper price for Game Pass. But that's just me. So yeah, but it was again, surprising bit of news. Did not expect for them to put their money where their mouth was. So yeah, pleasant surprise on that for Game Pass users. Next up, Game Informer reports that the spinoff title Splatoon Raiders has a new trailer and will launch on July 23rd. This is a single-player adventure in the Splatoon series. Will feature open-world exploration, crafting, treasure hunting, while still using like the core Splatoon mechanic of like shooting paint places. And it looks like you're fighting the Salmonids, which have been like a horde mode enemy in Splatoon before. So it seems like they're leaning on that still as an element. But it's like you're going around to, like, you're exploring this open world and like looking for treasure and stuff, and like you'll encounter hordes of these Salmonids elsewhere, or just like bigger boss enemies. But you also get all of the main NPCs of Splatoon 3 to join you on your adventure. So yeah, I mean, I like Splatoon. I might give this a shot. Go do some exploration, paint everything. Sadly, I didn't play Splatoon 3 at all. I don't think I have it. No, I don't think I have it. I have 2. I definitely have 2, but I don't think I invested in 3. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. But I definitely think single player is more my jam than doing like PvP. So, yeah, excited for that to come out. Last bit of news is World of Warcraft. So I talked about this at the top of the show. Blizzard released patch 12.0.5 this week. It was just like a minor content patch. It didn't have any new story. It didn't have any like story quests or whatever. So it was introducing void strikes, introducing some kind of like ritual, like stop the ritual content. Abyss Anglers, which is what I was most excited for. Decor duels, which was formerly called Prop Hunt. And then like some catch up mechanics and reroll mechanics for gear. Should have been easy sailing, minor content patch. This patch released and it seemed to break everything. It was the number of bugs that weren't present before, which like Midnight launched with a bunch of bugs. And it's just been like constantly hot fixes and like fixing all sorts of stuff. And then this is just like reintroduced a bunch of other bugs. Including to like class, like it broke class specs. It broke one of the raids. So it's like it shouldn't even have anything to do with the raid, and somehow like it broke one of them. One of the end bosses no longer like broadcast what abilities they were doing. And that's a fight where you absolutely need to know what abilities they're doing. Abyss Anglers, like there were a bunch of things that just weren't working in Decor Duels. So Decor Duels is like hide and seek, where you have a team that gets turned into furniture, and their goal is to hide from the other team who picks like a class in the match, and then they get abilities to try and like find and then tag the hiders. So it's literally like a hiding team and a seeking team. So it's hide and seek, but with like extra abilities to help you do stuff. But I guess it broke. So like when it first launched, hiders locations weren't hidden, so you just see them on the minimap. But then Blizzard also forgot that hunters have track humanoids, and I assume feral druids also were benefiting from this. So like certain classes had the ability to track humanoids, and they didn't like change the creature type of the hiders, so that as a hunter, I was able to track the hiders' locations on the minimap, which is not fair. I'm gonna throw it out there. That's not fair. And ultimately, like it just feels like a half-baked idea. I know there was a lot of complaints about abundance events, which launched with Midnight. That's like a main it's like side feature. That felt half-baked, and a lot of the new stuff that they introduced doesn't seem to feel any better. I know in particular with Void Strikes, like how you accumulate progress for those events is just way too slow. And then it's just intended to be a catch-up mechanic for alts. So it's like, well, I would rather just run delves or craft. Like I would rather do those things than do, and it's just they're very tedious events. It's essentially like World Quest pop up, and you go to wherever that World Quest event is, and then you just like it'll be like bring batteries to a pylon, or kill Gnarlden, or something like, or I'm trying to think of some of the other ones, but those are like the two main ones. And it was like, for the pylons, for every battery you bring to the pylon, you get like 1 to 2%, and you have to go from 1 to 100. So you have to bring 50 batteries to the pylon. And it's like, it's not just on you because it's like a public event, but it still takes forever. And then there's like a meta event to actually get the chest full of crests and stuff like that, or whatever the currency is. And it's supposed to be that the Void Strikes also then provide progress towards the meta one, and it just seems like even that's too slow as well. So and then the ritual, like the ritual sites just feel like Island Expeditions 2.0, but they're also worse, and also just like half-baked delves. Like it literally uses the same delve structure, but they're not delves. So it's like instead I would have rather taken like one extra delve instead of like these ritual sites. So yeah, it's not great. It's not a great patch. So the news is, in addition to that, Blizzard issued a formal apology on social media about it. That, it's acknowledging that the quality was not up to their standards and that the team's working round the clock to try and fix everything. And among the fan base, it seems pretty evident, or at least it's pretty prevalent among the fan base. The idea is that Blizzard has decided to go all in on just AI coding, and they're not doing any proper QA. Which is to say that the QA team might be catching stuff and then it's getting ignored by management. I would certainly believe that, or management saying like, well, we don't have the pipeline to do that. We have to push out all these new features. My hope is that maybe they slow down the development cycle. I think 18 months is too short between expansions. I think especially like this patch came out way too quickly. I would have been fine if this patch didn't come out for another month. Another 2 months. I like having lots of time. I like having downtime in Warcraft. It means that, number one, I have time to be able to do stuff on my alts and feel like I'm not falling behind on my main character. Like I don't feel like I have to sacrifice time between the two. But also, like, this isn't what Blizzard wants. But I like to be able to play other games and feel like I'm not falling behind in Warcraft. Because realistically, like, I get to a point where, if my main character's as kitted out as best they're going to be, there's not really any incentive for me to continue running the 8 delves for, gear that I've already like outpaced, because I don't do mythic dungeons. I don't really do raids. Like I just do delves and world content. So I don't know. And I'm constantly hitting the cap on crests to upgrade my gear. So it's, I will run 8 delves, which are smaller, like bite-sized dungeons that you can do solo. I will run 8 of those to fill out, my vault so I can get gear, so I can, get free gear and stuff. But that will also give me all the crests that I need to upgrade my gear for the week. And I will upgrade my gear a little bit, and then like I'm done. Otherwise it's like logging in every day to check for like to do like skinning. So like I can harvest leather. There's sometimes when maybe I just want to do something else. Maybe I want to level my Death Knight and go get some ore and work on blacksmithing. Or maybe I just want to play Windrose. So, yeah. It also, this patch started, they've discovered some sort of game-breaking, like, devastating bug with housing, and therefore had to disable housing for, like, 2 days. And given the track record of whenever they find game-breaking bugs, there was a lot of people legitimately concerned that they were going to lose, like you would still have your plot, but like their house would have been deleted, and then they would have had to have started over from scratch. And without having like the ability to save your layout of houses and like all the decor that you place down, sometimes it takes a lot. It's not a lot of work, but it's a lot of tedium. It's a lot of like meticulously placing things and getting them to look just right. And if you end up having if you end up having a wipe that takes that away, like that's gonna cause people to quit. So that didn't happen, but it was a legitimate fear. Like there's been a couple times. It's been with guild banks and when they introduced war bands. There were some guild banks that they never got back what was wiped. Like some guild banks got wiped, and those people never got that stuff back. And then during the pre-patch for Midnight, they had to take warband banks offline for some reason. So then there was also a legitimate concern about warband stuff getting deleted. So it's... I think the current cadence of content coming out for Warcraft is too quick. I think they're not giving the teams enough time to be able to properly QA and squash bugs. I don't like the idea of pushing out a buggy product and then fixing it later. And it seems like Blizzard is just taking that path. Now, whether it's Blizzard management or Microsoft management, I don't know. But it's also, there's a lot of stuff that kind of just reeks of, like, this was slapped together like with Claude or Copilot or ChatGPT or something. And that doesn't sit right with me. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. I honestly would hope that there's maybe some like disgruntled employees out there who are more than happy to disclose like, oh yeah, they're using Copilot. Which ironically, a couple weeks ago, Microsoft was cautioning, was like putting out a disclaimer that Copilot should only be used for entertainment purposes because it was just giving so much bad info. So it's just frustrating. It's frustrating that people continue to rely on these tools that they got bamboozled by from the companies that are pushing them. Because they're not good. They're not good. As we've seen with this patch. So, yeah. I mean, and as far as apologies go, I'm going to wait and see. I'm not holding my breath as to it actually meaning anything. Because, you know, my theory is if you're going to push out product that quickly, you needed to have hired people, not let people go. So, all right. That's enough about Warcraft. I don't want to talk about Warcraft anymore. I want to talk about the game that's on the review list for this week. So I talked about it as news last week, but Windrose. Windrose is a golden age of piracy survival game set in the Caribbean. It is by Kraken Press. And it is, if I had to describe it, all right. So when I took game design in college, part of the idea was making like a pitch deck, like a pitch document. So it was like a one sheet, and it was describe your game. And it was, the idea was like you'd play games and then you would write out like a pitch for that game. And the idea was like it had to fit on one sheet of paper, and it was like specific fields of like what is like a one sentence description of your game. So with this, I would say it's Valheim meets Black Flag. There are very clear inspirations from both games. I think a lot of the crafting and building systems are very similar to Valheim. The combat also, it kind of feels a little bit like Valheim, but it's more complex than it. And then I finally got to the point where I had a big ship, and the ship combat is 100% like a simplified version of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I say that because like your ship generally does not take damage from running into things. I I don't know if you deal damage by ramming things, but ramming was like a legitimate tactic in Black Flag. So whether that's an actual mechanic or not in Windrose, I don't know. But the main thing is like you get front guns and then you get your side cannons. But unlike Black Flag is you do not have to constantly restock cannonballs. And you can freely switch between chain shot for sails or regular shot for hulls. It also seems like that if the ship is like a higher level than you, and you disable it, you must board it. But it feels like if you're fighting a lower level ship, you might just destroy it outright without having to board it. And it doesn't seem to be any difference in the rewards that you get. However, it would have been nice. So one of the things that would have been nice that Black Flag does is after you board and like defeat a crew during a boarding action, you then get like a couple different options for what you want to do with that crew and the ship. So like you can like capture the ship and it adds it to your fleet. You could decide to turn the ship into resources. So like you heal your ship and you get like some resources. That might have been a cool mechanic. Or like you can essentially spare the crew and offer them a job, in which case it gives you other benefits. So things like that might have been interesting. I know there is one more equipment slot for my boats that I have yet to unlock where it's naval tactics. So I don't know if stuff like that is going to come up there. I know there was one where it was like if you destroy a ship, you then heal, like your ship then recovers HP. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. That kind of leans into that. Combat is definitely melee combat, at least. Sort of, has the problem of like Assassin's Creed 4, where instead of just like reacting to things, it is in your best interest to invest in things that just help you dodge, because it seems like it's just dodging and then running in for a quick strike and then dodging and dodging and dodging and then running in for a quick strike. So in that case, conceptually similar to Dark Souls and Elden Ring, where it's just you're waiting for a specific opening and then you're just defending, and it's if you make a mistake while defending, you get punished for it. Definitely the case with this game. So I've been investing in a lot of effects that will allow me to dodge more often, or when you attack, it also consumes stamina, which is the resource that like you use for dodging, sprinting, yada yada. So I've just been looking for like stamina cost reduction effects, just so that I don't have to worry about running out of stamina doing like attack, then dodge, and then attack, and then dodge, and then maybe attack twice and then dodge. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I love Golden Age of Piracy games. So like, and I loved Valheim. So this is right up my alley. Like this is what I want. Supposedly there is fishing in the game. So like it has everything that I want. I haven't unlocked it yet. I think it is in the early access build somewhere, but I haven't found it yet. They do shanties. You don't have to go around collecting them like you do in Black Flag. It's a toggle. So it starts off, so you get the ambient background music, which is pretty good. But you can you can issue a command to your crew and then they'll start singing with you. So that's a nice little quality of life feature. I feel like you have to do it in some kind of pirate. Like, I don't know if any other game did it before Black Flag did, but it definitely, like, ever since then, it feels like a game would feel incomplete to do like a pirate game and then not have that. And then the story so far is fairly interesting. It's Blackbeard has gotten his hands on an artifact that gives him command of the dead. So he has risen an undead navy and used it to sack Tortuga. So kind of simple story, but I'm curious to see where it goes. In the opening scene, in the opening sequence, like your character dies and then is revived by the artifact that Blackbeard's searching for. So there's also a little bit of like, if you play Baldur's Gate 3, there's the artifact that you have where like everybody's looking for it and then you just happen to end up with it because of Shadowheart. So there's like also that sort of element too. And in particular, Blackbeard's looking for the artifact that you have. Or maybe he does have it. It's a little odd. I think I have to play through the story more and figure that part out. But right now I'm just sailing around meeting the other pirate factions who are all allied against Blackbeard and just reveling in ship combat. So as far as the combat, so the combat, both ship and like personal combat, is kind of punishing, especially in the early game. I would recommend, if you're going to play this game, really you need to like read a guide or watch a video. It also, the combat tutorial is not great. So really just like watching something to get a feel for like attack and then dodge backwards and then wait for your stamina to recover and then just repeat that process. And then, if you've got a good handle on that, then you can go take on things to like craft gear and unlock your gear or upgrade your gear. And the game really starts to come online once you've like fully upgraded all the starting gear. So yeah. So combat hasn't been a particular favorite of mine. I now have a fully upgraded like a base ship, like a basic unaffiliated catch. And so now I feel like I'm actually able to participate in naval combat. Because otherwise it's just packs of 3 other ships roaming around everywhere. Like it's very difficult to find one that's just like on its own, just goofing around. And like that's what you want, is you want to try and like ambush ships that like have broken off from a rest of a formation or something, or just off on their own. But now that said, it's really fun. I'm having a blast, and I look forward to playing more of it. It's a rare case of, I normally don't like backing early access stuff these days. Just I've been burned a couple times, but this was definitely worth it, and it has a degree of like. There's been a few bugs. They've mostly been funny, and they've largely kind of been related to like pathing issues. Which once I cleared out the path, like they resolved themselves. But aside from that, overall the game's pretty well polished. And my computer seems to run it well, so that's always a plus. But yeah, so I believe it's $30 on Steam. I think it's definitely worth the deal. If you liked Valheim, if you like Ark, if you like any other sort of survival game, you'll definitely want to give this one a shot. Or if you're just a fan of pirate games in general, this is super piratey. And it's like, it leans kind of into that like supernatural piracy. So it's like when you go to Tortuga, like you already found it in the story that Blackbeard has sacked Tortuga. And so like as you're approaching Tortuga, like the sky starts turning like like the clouds darken and the sky turns green to really emphasize that, like, oh, Blackbeard used a horde of zombies to level this town. And then it gets like more and more profound and spooky as you approach. Like if there's fog, the fog's like a bright green. So, and then, you know, when you get to Tortuga, you find out that like half the city has been like corrupted, despoiled, or whatever. So there's like eerie ghost flames coming up to prevent you from accessing that part. But it's like leveled past that. And I assume it's going to be crawling with the undead. So yeah, it's great. I think the atmosphere is really good. The music's pretty good. I don't know if they're planning on doing full voice acting. Like you have dialogue options in chat, and your character doesn't seem to talk. When you're doing your like speech bubbles and chat bubbles and stuff. So my hope is that, you know, we'll get a little bit more polish over some very minor things, but I'm having a great time. I think I've put maybe 15 hours into it, and it's definitely worth it if you're a fan of pirates like I am. So Windrose, available now on Steam. And with that, we are going to wrap up our show for this week. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for listening or watching. If you would like to see more content from 8-Bit Adventures, check out our newly refurbished website over at 8bitadventures.com. If you would like to help support that content, the best way to do it is to become a patron at patreon.com/8bitadventures. I will be revamping a bunch of the reward tiers for patrons. So you'll get more stuff and like kind of more appropriate stuff that is more geared towards getting like things every month as opposed to like one-off things, like one-off rewards. So yeah, so that's coming down the pipeline. And then our opening theme is a one-up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And with that, we are going to end our episode for the week. Once again, thank you all for joining me. Big shout out and thank you to all the current patrons. Thank you for your continued support. And as always, have fun, happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.